Hello, welcome to another segment of the inService podcast series. My name is John Carroll. I'm the CEO and founder of the Service Council, a Boston-based research analyst firm covering best practices in customer service, customer experience, and service, field services as well. And we are super excited to welcome today's guest, Bob Lamendola. Bob is the Senior Vice President of Technology, and he's also the head of Ricoh North America Digital Services Center. Bob is an advisory board member of the Service Council and in many contributions in that capacity. We're very grateful for Bob. And he's also very rich with experience around today's topic, which is the service advantage driving new market growth by leveraging existing skill sets. And one of the things that we've been tracking the Service Council is this knowledge exodus, this skill set exodus, and this challenge of managing against capacity issues and availability of resources and all the skill sets that are required, especially as services and customer experience continues to be more challenging and complex. Literally and figuratively, there's been a big focus on a glass half empty methodology that there's not enough talent, there's not enough knowledge. Well, Ricoh is an organization under Bob's leadership that has taken that knowledge that they possess and identified new market potential and market growth as a result of leveraging that and understanding it and applying it to markets. And so a very warm welcome to Bob. Bob, welcome to today's discussion.
John, thank you very much, and I'm glad to be with you as always. I've enjoyed sort of the partnership with Service Council. It really gives great opportunity to talk about things that are going on in the business and hear from other organizations as part of an advisory member. It gives real relevance to what we're doing and what we're experiencing as an organization. So it's great to be here.
Outstanding. So if you're listening to today, you can access this on rewind, if you will, on all the major channels, all the different podcast channels that you subscribe to. So it will be available on any one of those channels moving forward. It's also consumable from our website, servicecouncil.com, if you'd like to share it with a colleague. It's going to be a great resource, I know, through all the planning discussions with Bob. A lot of actionable takeaways that we're going to try and build into today's discussion. So, Bob, for our listening audience that doesn't know you, both personally, professionally, but also Ricoh, could you just talk a little bit about the company and yourself?
Absolutely. So let me start with Ricoh. And I think people sort of look at Ricoh sometimes and don't understand the breadth of services we provide. But we're really focused on people, processes, technology. Everybody says that in terms of what their focus is. But that's really building on the legacy of the company that has been born in intellectual property development and patent development in all kinds of technology, from cameras to multifunction printers to whiteboard and technology, and then really moving into workflow automation and digital services, really where the foundation of the company's been. We have helped more than $1.4 million businesses across the globe. And in North America, we have a large presence in terms of companies. Many Fortune 500 companies leverage our services. So it's really a great organization. It's a spirit of innovation. It's really a great opportunity for us to continue to drive what we believe is value in throughout our customers and their requirements. Me personally, I come from an IT background. So I started, the first half of my career was in corporate IT. It's really where my base of understanding is and what's my educational background. About halfway through my career, I had an opportunity to become part of what's called an MSP, managed service provider in IT services. And it really gave me a unique perspective because I got to see as a consumer being in corporate IT and then also be as a provider in an MSP and sort of seeing both sides of the equation. The company I worked for was in the mid-market, sort of MSP service company in the mid-market, and Ricoh had purchased the company back in 2014. So that's my entree into Ricoh. When I came into Ricoh, really we're focused on IT services, but over the period of time, we really started to blend the mix of IT services and managed services and field services and professional services, and really started to blend the capabilities across because customers wanted a single experience, not necessarily three different experiences depending on what line of business you purchased. So we really worked hard over those early years to bring that together. It presented an opportunity for me to work in what we call service delivery. In most companies, it's an operations team. And I was tasked with the ability or the responsibility of bringing these service models together and then working on things like ITIL principles, IT service management platforms. We chose ServiceNow. How do we build automation and integration in what we deliver as a customer experience? How do we improve the customer experience by driving more capabilities to the hands of the customers? So I had an opportunity to take all my experience in IT and apply it in a little bit of a different way and drive a new experience in automation and integration from a service delivery. Then last year, we had a new CEO that came on, and Karsten Brunn, who's been part of Ricoh for a very long time, brought sort of like, developed a new strategy. We called it North Star. And it's really being about customer focus. We've always been very about the customer, but really trying to make sure we build a digital services portfolio from the outside in, meaning not just build products and solutions and try to drive them to market, actually find out what market problems, customer problems exist, and innovate around what those opportunities exist. So it really tried to work to transform. It presented an opportunity to me to lead what was being created as a digital services center and the new role of VP of technology. So that's what I've been working on the last year, been part of the management team and sort of plotting a new strategy and go forward strategy for our company and organization, really making sure we create co-innovation opportunities with our customers and build strong partnerships to move forward so that we can build an integrated solution portfolio that really is meaningful for our customers.
That's outstanding, Bob. Thank you for the introduction. And I want to encourage our listening audience to get involved in today's discussion. If you want to comment and submit questions to Bob along the journey here, we'll be together here for 45 minutes to an hour. If you want to react to anything you hear, whether it's the research that I share as I position questions to Bob, or if it's something that Bob says that you'd like to dig deeper on, we welcome you to put some comments into the feed here, and we'll try to make time to make sure we get any questions or comments reacted to. So the service advantage is the topic, driving market growth with existing skill sets. We've talked about skill sets and knowledge. It's been a big point of emphasis among Service Council members for several reasons. And I really love the notion of turning it into an advantage, right? Because we've been talking about the retirement crisis. We've been talking about the Great Resignation. We're currently conducting a survey, Bob, the Voice of the Field Service Engineer survey. It's almost complete with survey collection, data collection, that is. We have nearly 1,500 respondents from technicians around the globe. 46% of technicians are leaving their job role. And it's not just in the future, it's within the next 1 to 3 years, 60% of that 46% will be leaving.
Right.
And when we dig under the hood, it's not just to retirement, it's career lattice, it's somewhere else, right? It's going somewhere else. So that you've turned this attention away from obviously that challenge towards the advantage of identifying, new market potential is really impressive. Can you talk a little bit about the viewpoint of knowledge and it's kind of similar to what we do on the customer side, where we journey map the customer. We're now journey mapping internally our engineers and our technicians and our service people to say, okay, where are those pockets of innovation that we can drive further value to the market, isn't it?
Absolutely. And our program, and we actually call it Service Advantage. We were looked at the opportunity within our field services team to what capabilities can we do and leverage the experience that we have. We call it the last mile. We refer to it because that last mile is the connectivity to the customer. And that experience and that value that we drive give us an opportunity to participate with our customers in different services. So really, when we embrace Service Advantage, when we look at what our field services technicians do, they were servicing our multifunction printers. There's a lot of technology in those printers. People think, okay, it's just a printer, but there's a lot of very intricate technology. We realized very quickly that we can train those folks to manage and monitor other things, point of sale systems, robotics, other kind of new opportunities that we can leverage our infrastructure, our support infrastructure, our HR infrastructure, our supply chain, and actually provide value to technology companies that don't have the scale and reach that we do. So that's our Service Advantage program. Now, along that way, that required us to look at our field service technician force, and understand what journey do we need to take them on. And we started down a path. It was bumpy in the beginning, quite frankly, and we challenged with making sort of an experience where they were comfortable with transitioning technology and understanding what the future was for them. But we've made that journey, and really where we've started to see opportunity is, it's not just an investment in training. We did a lot of that to try to train folks on new technologies, but also creating a career path That's an understanding it's that the entry-level engineering at the field service level is a great opportunity to extend careers. It's a great opportunity to expand careers and create entree to other positions. And we're very open about that, where there's opportunities for people to move on. And by being transparent about those opportunities, it really helped build sort of a groundswell support for that. You mentioned something, voice of the field service engineer, and that's something I give Dan Piccoli, who runs our field service operations, a smart guy, been in the business a very long time. But he started as voice of the field service technician long ago. So as we were doing new things, as we were trying to incorporate new services, he took the feedback from his field service engineers, and we took that very seriously. So we kind of incorporated new technologies to make their jobs easier. How do we drive efficiency for them as they do their jobs? Listening to what they're saying. Sometimes they're small things. We make small little changes. Sometimes they were bigger system implementations. But that voice of the field service engineer is what launched us from a fledgling service advantage program to a core element of what our digital services portfolio will be going forward. Because we recognize that connection point with the customers, the ability to provide value to the customers, listening to what the field service technicians' problems were each and every day, was the magic that we needed to understand where we needed to take our portfolio. So that symbiotic relationship took a couple of years to get to this point, but it really created a new energy. Now, in a minute, we'll talk about sort of the challenges, what you mentioned before, resignations and changeover and people sort of getting burnt out. And we'll talk about that in a moment, because that's real. And it's not just in field services. We see it in other parts of the business too. But we really look at service advantage as a strategic competitive advantage for our services, our platform, our capabilities. It gives us the right to play and the right to go our customers and talk about workflow, analytics, AI. We incorporate new technologies to make the field service technicians more efficient in their jobs and create a closer connectivity with the customers. That's really what we've kind of learned. And we've learned that from the field. We didn't sit in an ivory tower and kind of say, hey, we know all the answers. We said, no, let's hear for what's going on the field from the folks that are working with our customers every day, and then make innovation happen based on what they're telling us.
That's a really, really strong point you make there. And kudos to Dan. We've had many conversations with Dan over the years. Being the flag carrier for getting the feedback and input of the frontline into the innovation that you're driving is so important. We asked the question of field service technicians last year. Do you feel like management listens to you or reacts to your input and feedback? And 60%, 6 out of 10, indicated that they didn't feel that their voice was heard. So they're giving feedback and input that the job is hard. We need more information. We spend too much time on admin and paperwork. We don't like all the time that we spend finding information. Yep. All these technology platforms, we're still phoning a friend 80% of the time when we're stuck.
Right.
Can you make my job easier? Yet they're not being listened or heard. So I love that your organization took that that approach long ago to involve their feedback into the process. What are some of the other things that you did to sort of journey down this path beyond
It's perfect, because I was going to lead right in, because you talked about earlier what's the frustrations and what leads to turnover is when you don't listen, when you forget about catering to what they're feeling and how they're doing their jobs. It's when you get dissatisfaction and the turnover rate just increases. Now you still have it. Listen, there's an element of that that's going to happen, but you have to respond to what you're hearing back from the field. Some of the ways in which we approach this, we tried a few different things, and to be honest with you, and some of them worked and some of them were a little more successful than others, and then we really learned over time how to make ththose work. First of all, to drive efficiency, and that's really where the most important part. You brought up about paperwork and things of that nature. We've invested a tremendous amount in our field service capabilities and the technology we're using to drive field service dispatch, avoiding dispatch where it wasn't necessary, using remote management tools to solve problems remotely, so we're not wasting the time of field service technicians to go on site to provide support for something that was mundane or something that could be resolved remotely, giving more control at the customer endpoint. Therefore, when we're using a field service technicians, it's for the right reasons. It's with the most valuable input. And then when we're sending them out there, we're giving them the right insights. Before they even get on site, they know why they're there, what they need, what spare parts they have to actually do the job correctly. Then when they get on site, we provided augmented reality technology. So if they get stuck, or if it's a new person that maybe doesn't have as much experience as somebody else in the field, they have the ability to use remote AR technology to go get engineers remotely to help them and point them to actually solve a problem. So it's trying to create that experience where they're confident going on site. They know they're going on site. That's a real problem. They're prepared to resolve the issue when they get on site. And then they always have the ability, the comfort level to call back to somebody else should they get stuck. All those little experiences, and they sort of evolved over time and stacked on top of each other as we developed the capabilities. That sort of helped build efficiency, and it made the field service technicians and their feedback, that we were listening. Now, is it perfect? No, of course not. Every time you introduce new technology, there's always an adoption rate. There's always early adopters, and there's always folks that have to take a little bit more time to get comfortable. That's where we really fortified that with a support team in field services that really works with the technicians, sort of help them understand when they're having a little bit of a challenge adapting to new technologies that get delivered. So it's a nurturing campaign. So it's not just about driving new technology. Here, start using this. This is what you need to do. It's about using this. If you're having some problems, let's mentor you through sort of the success, and then listen to you when you have some input or feedback, and make sure we give you that feedback and try to resolve that. So it's that constant feedback mechanism. When are we going to be done? The answer is never. It's a continuous and constant focus on improvement. You always must look at these things. It's not a project, meaning it's a start and end, and once you're done, you move on. There's always an aftercare feeding process that we want to go, because the efficiency and effectiveness of the solution only matters how well the folks are using it. So we really try to play an extra effort to make sure that we're providing those services and the field services support on an ongoing basis.
We see so many parallels between the employee and the customer, right? In terms of what they're seeking from you as an organization, right? If you think about the customer, they're looking for an effortless, frictionless experience, right? They're hoping that the ease of doing business with you. First of all, they're hoping if it is asset centric, that it's always on, uptime is high, and when and where there is an issue, it's resolved quickly. And when and where they have to be part of that resolution journey, they want it to be effortless and frictionless, right? The whole customer effort side of things. And the same is happening on the employee side. They want an effortless job experience. And so the Great Resignation is really fueled by the rigorous aspect of the job, right? Being a technician or an engineer is not that easy. It's a lot of isolation, time away from family. It's hard labor in many industries. And there's a lot of burnout happening. The other thing that we see as a parallel between the customer and the employee is proactive support, right? Customers are demanding proactive, predictive support. The same is starting to happen inside the organization. When and where you see anomalies in service delivery, organizations that are really mature are identifying those and then proactively supporting the engineer by saying, hey, do you need information? Are you struggling with parts availability? Can we source any resources to you that can help you be efficient and resolve the issue and move on to the next job? Make sure that there's a quality experience, but make sure that you're efficient and effective in your job as well. Is that something that Ricoh is looking at?
So it's a great lead in, because when we look at all the efficiencies, both from our customers and the experience that they have and how they view our services, but also for our folks and what we're using and how we're leveraging the systems we have, we've adopted sort of, I'll call it, when I talk about artificial intelligence and AI, it sounds like such this grandiose scheme and grandiose, and it really is more as it's a commitment, sort of leveraging the technology where it can be best used. So we have very small targeted implementations of AI where they give the most value. You mentioned a little bit before, predictive analysis, where we already have monitoring services, all the IoT devices we manage. We're now ingesting all that and using AI to sort of understand when something may be approaching its problem area. Is it something that we should be proactively addressing? Using AI to help based on similar experiences, similar models, similar duration of time in the field. When should something proactively occur so we can avoid a problem later on? Similarly, applying AI in our service management tickets. So as we get ingested tickets from our customers or support requests from our customers that have the same common criteria or same similar things, the system learns from itself. It learns from the ingestion of those comments, looking for keywords, and then is automatically able to create prescriptive and directed resolutions based on what it's learning. So those two applications have created a tremendous amount of efficiency. Those things will continue as we go forward. But also now what we're looking at is IoT command center capabilities where we're providing observability to our customers. So they also can see what we can see, being fully transparent. So they get a bird's eye view of all the IoT devices we're managing on their behalf, whether it be an MFP, whether it be a server infrastructure, whether it be robotics, so that we can give the customer a common experience, and we're being very transparent so they can see what we can see and how we're reacting, responding. It's that full life cycle that we're kind of going forward with. Again, being focused on the customer, giving them the experience that works best for them, that try to help bring those two things together so our technicians and our customers are actually seeing the same things and are able to collaborate on bringing efficiencies to the resolution of problems. That's where it comes down to. Fix my problems before they happen, or when they do happen, fix them as efficiently as you can. And the more we can deliver remotely and do remotely, and the more optimized use we can use of field service technicians, and the broader field of responsibilities we can give them so they're most effective and efficient on site, the closer our connect customers feel to us. And the better that relationship is, the longer term and the value propositions we can give to those customers.
That's outstanding. I love it. And we did a research project earlier this year on KPIs and metrics, and we wanted to understand the priority of metrics by 5 different classes. Are you looking at customer metrics, or revenue metrics, or cost metrics, or supply chain, or employee? And then behind that, we wanted to understand the key metrics that were being tracked and traced in each category. And then lastly, we looked at, well, now that we know what your priorities are in terms of metrics, what are you achieving? And we did a maturity analysis of low performance versus average versus high, best in class, if you will. A lot of cool findings from that. Can you frame for our listening audience this transformation that you're talking about? What have been some of the benefits along the metric classes that we just referenced? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Three specific areas. So obviously the traditional methodologies around service level objectives in terms of mean time to repair and responsiveness. We've seen significant improvement in both of those areas where we're able to respond to tickets much more faster and actually improve our mean time to repair. Those are very traditional models in terms of what we're focusing. But because we are moving to annuity-based models, and that's really where we're trying to sell everything as a service. Now, when I say everything, everyone says literally everything, not literally everything, but many things as we can as a service to build annuity models. You start to move into what's called customer success management, KPIs and measurements. And we're really trying to get a feel for the customer sentiment of our experience. So simple things like we've rolled out what's called Where's My Tech? It's kind of an Uber-based application for our field service technicians that allows the customer to experience when the driver is going to arrive so they're prepared, but more importantly, can rate the customer's experience with the technician when they arrive. And the value of that, we ingest all those metrics to our systems. Same thing is when a customer goes online in our portals and submits a support request and it gets resolved, can rate the experience that they had with the technician. And we do that in our call management systems, AVRs, our field service technician, and we take all that together. That together gives us service level objectives from a customer success management perspective. Again, managing the annuity work streams and revenue streams to drive value. And then the last way, what we're trying to do is where we have workflow automation, and we do this a lot. We use our field service technicians to service whatever devices we have at the customers, but we use those also as opportunities to present areas where we are able to introduce workflow automation to our customers that solve maybe very small business problems for them, but nonetheless drive value. And when we do that, we try to measure what it is the before and what are we driving as value after, and then ingest sort of what we're saving you in time, money, or effort on the back end. So we're trying to shift from the traditional KPIs that come with service level management, still very important, we still do those, but really move them to more a customer experience KPIs and metrics where the customer sentiment, real customer value, and perception of your services are all equally important, because that really helps us use to drive new and value capabilities to the customer, and it changes the conversation, which is what we're trying to do.
If I could build on that, Bob, in terms of the value to the organization, some of the achievements, and first I'll comment on some of your discussion, and then I'll ask the second follow-up here. Sure. We see CSAT moving to more voice of, right? The why, learning. It's not just what the measurement is; it's more of why. Why is the measurement either poor or why is it great? And so there's a big emphasis on that. We also see metrics that are being prioritized are, yes, you're going to always have your traditional, right? First time fix and mean time to repair and CSAT and all the normal stuff, right? But some of the more mature organizations are starting to look at the causal metrics to those outcomes or those effects, and so cause and effect, right? So first time fix rate, well, triage and diagnosis accuracy is a big part of that. So dispatch efficiency
Right.
is a big causal factor to not sending the right technician with the right skill set with the right part because you didn't diagnose it correctly. So we're seeing a little bit more of an emphasis of those causal factors, not just the outcome or the effect. The other thing that I would ask as follow up is, you talk a lot about the bottom part of the equation in terms of the health of your service business, which is cost and efficiency. The other side of it, the numerator, is the revenue, right? In terms of having a higher yield out of the business. What were some of the impact on that side of the business for
Absolutely.
Ricoh? Yeah.
Perfect. So as you know, Ricoh's history is in product. Our core products are MFPs, flat panel displays, cameras. That's really the core product. As we've been shifting the revenue shift more to services, right?
Hmm.
We've seen an increase, and we have very aggressive targets to sort of shift the balance and percentage of product to service. Right now, we're still heavily product, but we have a growing service line. So what we have is very specific targets to overall shift the growth of the service percentage of the total revenue, but equally and importantly, in each account, particularly the strategic accounts, we have the same metric. We understand exactly what customers are purchasing us, product versus service. We try to look and come up with strategies to shift the balance to be more service and product. And it's not at the expense of the product. The idea in services is to build what's called a pull-through strategy. Build a service that pulls through the product instead of have the product with a service that wraps around it. It's just a shift in mindset, a shift in technology. But the important part of that is it drives more revenue to the service line and maybe either maintains or sees a little growth on the product line. But you want to see that shift. So we've already started to see that balance. As we said before, when Karsten came aboard and we redefined our strategy in North Star about a year ago today, quite frankly, we set forth an aggressive objective of us to transition and change that balance to service. We are already on that path. We've already seen an increase year over year, even with supply chain, even with inventory issues. We've already seen a shift in growth in services. Without the supply chain and those inventory issues, I think we've even saw a greater shift in that balance.
Outstanding. Let's wrap up the conversation on the transformation that you've undergone, and then we'll get to some other key areas and trends that we're seeing in the industry. With a quick discussion on some of the learning moments along the journey. You said there's many learning moments, and we've heard a number of organizations use this methodology of failing fast and thinking big, starting small, right? So what were some of the good things you learned along the journey that you would success model against? And what were some of the issues that you would say, pitfall avoidance scenarios for our listening audience?
So I'm going to use a simple word called patience. What you learn quickly is through the enthusiasm and the effort to try to drive a new experience and drive new technology, what you have to recognize is patience, meaning that you have to be understanding that the transition is not about a technology. The transition is not simply about trying to drive a new experience. It's about taking the folks along the journey with you and understanding that everyone's not going to go at the same pace. So we've done two different things, been successful. First of all, we went too fast in many ways. We had to pull back and retrench. So that was one advice that I would say is monitor and manage your change management processes and the people that support change management. And that will dictate how quickly or how slowly you can go. Number two, we've also now adopted, and this is nothing new, but pilot programs on new technology. So we pick the folks that we know will be early adopters in almost anything we want to try and use those as advocates going forward. Actually, we use them to help validate the solution. So we're doing that in very quick pilots, new technology, validate. As many things that we decided to move forward, equal amount we've decided to stop. In my view, stopping is not a failure at all. It's just a new learning. So we look at those failures sometimes and say, that was a good idea, but you know what? In practice, that kind of wasn't ready. Or organizationally, we're not ready. That's also an outcome that would drive us to stop. But the ones where we get good feedback, In those pilots, we move forward quickly. Once we get the validation and we decide that we're going forward, we aggressively go forward with the solution. Soon as we go forward, we have a process of training. Now, training is a broad term and it gets overused in many different ways, but we do a mentorship program where we have trainers train their teams and then they train their teams. And we do it because we don't want somebody outside of the function doing the training. We want the people in the function doing the training. It draws a connection. They understand that each other understands the problems. So there's a connection right there. And it allows sort of an organic growth forward. And it's been a successful program. Again, going back to Dan and Dan's team, we talked about the strategy. Dan's team implemented that strategy. My team supports Dan in that effort. We provide all the SME expertise that he needs, but then he adopts that going forward. And we show patience. We exhibit patience. And folks that struggle, it's not a penalty. Folks that struggle are just an opportunity. So we then give them extra support and effort to see if we can bring them along the journey, and then we listen to them along the process. That didn't happen overnight. We made a lot of mistakes. We bumped our toe quite often along that journey and understood, but we really took a great appreciation for the people aspect, the journey aspect, to make sure that they're part of the solution. They feel connected to what we're trying to do. And more importantly, you mentioned it earlier, we use the word, what's the why?
Yeah.
What's the why? And once you get the folks to understand why this is important, then they become natural and it sort of breaks down the war and the barriers that you exist because it's different. Sometimes people don't do it because it's different, and different isn't always bad. It's just that they don't understand the why. So we spend a lot of time explaining the why because I think it helps, address many of the concerns and obstacles you get on adoption.
That's some great feedback to our listening audience, Bob. Really appreciate the thoughts there. I love, there's something to be said too about the winning culture, right? In terms of sentiment, if the journey isn't going well and you try something and it fails, stopping it oftentimes can have a ripple effect across the organization and perhaps drive confidence down in terms of where that North Star is and how are you getting there. And so I appreciate all the sentiment you just walked us through there in terms of patience and communication often and not moving too fast and the steady horse wins the race, right? So I love all the sentiment there. Let's move our attention back to the topic of knowledge, right? So how knowledge is driving an advantage. But let's go to the earlier trend that I was talking about, right? Which is capacity issues and available talent.
Yeah.
How big of a challenge is this for you? As you look at your landscape of service workforce, retirement crisis has been something pointed to and signaled as, whoa, it's out there, it's coming. And the exodus in terms of engagement is compounding that. Is that something that you're worried about, and how are you solving that?
Yeah, so it is a challenge. We are definitely worried about it each day. Certainly through the pandemic, even mental health issues have crept in where people have just chosen to do something different because they're a little bit burnt out. We see that not just in field service technicians, we see it across the organization. It's just there's an emotional kind of activity going on here that is weighing on the employee base, and it's understandable. It's a lot of external influences that's going on. But yeah, capacity planning and talent evaluations are very much front, first and foremost. Here's the good news. The good news is Ricoh has wonderfully talented field service technicians, wonderful experience, are very much nurturers. They're willing to share their experience with others. So what we've had to try to do is two different things. Yes, we had some turnover. We had some folks retire out, right? We also had to look at some of the very experienced field service technicians we had and the engineers we had in the field and figure out how do we make more of them without cloning them and creating a different problem, but how do we make more of them? And it was two ways we looked at it. First of all, we had to look at a way to attract new people into the field. This is a great entry job. It's an engineering job. Because it's a field service technician, no, it's a field engineering technician. And you get the chance to work with somebody that's going to mentor you like an apprentice early in your career. It doesn't mean that's your full career and your lifetime career, but it's a great entry career. And we try to change the narrative around the subject so that we can attract new employees, new skill sets, and give them the opportunity of saying, this is a great entry-level job for you. This is a great experience for you. And we're going to team you with someone that's going to teach you the ropes, teach you how to navigate through customer experiences. Think about that. How many people would you love to have that have not only have field engineering experience, but also deal with customers? that skill set of dealing with customers, particularly in this virtual world that we live in today, in this hybrid world, that skill set of knowing how to talk to a customer, how to treat a customer, how to respond to a customer, combined with something that's very technical in an engineering field, that's a wonderful career opportunity. So we've tried to accentuate the fact of bringing in new engineers into the field. We've also, as mentioned before, really worked on efficiencies. So really worked to modulate and understand where the technicians are in the country, what skill sets they have, where do we have gaps? And when we have the gaps, how do we fill those gaps? So instead of trying to like take somebody from Seattle and drive them to Florida because that's the skill set that we have, is understand where we have the skill set gaps and how do we nurture that? How do we find it? How do we acquire that? Quite frankly, we're paying more.
Yep.
At the end of the day, these are valuable jobs. We
Yep.
value those employees. We value the jobs. We've had to up our pay scale. And that's not just because the market is where it is. That's because we value the job. We value the experience. We value the customer connectivity. That part of it has been clear. And we've made a concerted effort strategy-wise. And again, this goes back to Greg Schubert, who runs service delivery, Dan Piccoli, who's field services, and really the entire organization, supported by our HR team and Donna Venable, have really come together with a strategy to say, listen, we value these employees. We got to change the pay scale. So we don't want to look at a field service engineer as, there's just some guy that goes on service. No, it's our engineer. They're customer facing. They're valued. We have to change, and we had to change the narrative. That took a while, right? But that's what we're doing. Even with all that, we still have problems. We still have problems because it's just a competitive workforce that we're dealing with. So it's about trying to bring out the real value in the position, the real value in what field services engineering could truly be about for you as a career, and making sure that we're paying accordingly for the skill sets that we're asking for. We're getting into robotics, some very intricate technologies that require folks to actually get an opportunity to work on leading edge in some ways technologies. And it really hopefully will create the opportunity where people will be easier to sort of attract them to the business. And then finally, it's something Lawrence Salata came along as a chief marketing officer around the same time I took my job. And she's really working hard on a brand renovation. It's not like we're leaving the brand or anything, but really trying to make sure the market understands Ricoh as a technology player. That's what we are. And we make sure that we're attracting people that understand that working for Ricoh is good for your career long term. And we provide you many opportunities to navigate through the organization, to expand your horizons, to make a career for yourself, and to really make it somewhere that you can be proud of, hopefully where you choose to stay. But of course, sometimes people choose to leave. But either way, we want to create that experience for the employees.
That's outstanding. I love it. And brand identity is very important. And as you evolve and capture new market opportunities through this advantage of understanding your knowledge, your skill sets, and your team, and how you can apply those to your customer markets, that brand identity will follow right along that journey. So I think that's a really good point you make there. Bob, let's move to digital transformation, right? So we're looking at many different trends in terms of the technologies that are being invested in. A lot of the information that we're seeing signal a continued investment in building an information platform. We call it a technician agnostic infrastructure, right? How can you use all these capabilities to upskill, reskill, and sort of level the playing field, especially with all the labor challenges we've talked about, right? New workforces entering the market, not as career trained, if you will. They're not as trained in the role, and a little bit less experienced, if you will. So we're still seeing a lot of investments being placed towards areas like business intelligence, even the elimination of disparate systems so that there's not pockets of information that it's tough to find. So access to customer history, asset history, manuals and knowledge-based articles, all the good things that help drive efficiency and enjoyment in the job. You've talked about some of those technologies are part of this platform, but what are some of the what additional technologies are you looking at that's kind of like on the roadmap?
Sure. So let's talk from a strategy perspective, because you bring up a good, in most companies, ours no different. It's a lot of different technologies, a lot of different platforms, and they all have to interop at some point. So we've taken a very platform approach. And what I mean by that is we are focusing on integration. So instead of trying to change all the underlying technologies and trying to swap those out, those are still happening. They'll happen over time. Really working on creating a platform layer to create simplicity for both our customers and our employees, where we can mask all the complexity of the integration behind the scenes, but present a common interface so employees have one access to information, and customers, as we drive e-commerce, as we drive self-service, as we drive a common experience, don't have to experience all the different elements of it, but to just have one view. We're working extremely hard to adopt that platform. That requires to integrate an integration layer. So we're really focused on APIs, build once, use many methodologies to make sure that we can swap technologies when they're required and mask the complexity to the consumers. And the consumer could be an employee, or the consumer can actually be a customer. Could be a partner too. We're actually extending that to our partners. We're leveraging investments we've already made in things like ServiceNow. So we're going beyond that and implementing knowledge-centered services, KCSs, and we're investing tremendous amount of energy in knowledge management that's buried within ServiceNow. And the reason for that is, as we build out the documents and the knowledge and the articles to resolve problems, we're using that and the natural AI engines to drive sort of a new experience. It's helping us centralize all our knowledge about our products, about our customers, and about our services in one platform, and then allowing us to take that out and do something with that. And then finally, we've made big investments in business intelligence, a big investment in a platform built around knowledge-based management and everything about that, and driving sort of dashboard kind of approaches and really centralized services when it comes to reading and interpreting data. We've implemented Snowflake as a technology, sort of that integration layer. And the reason why Snowflake is very attractive to us, it gives us the ability to federate data with our customers when we need to. And so it's not just a way that we can incorporate data from the ground up and create a common layer, but it also allows us, where needed, to federate data with our customers or partners, meaning sharing that knowledge and information that we have where it's relevant to them. So it's those platform decisions we're making. Integration layer, we're looking at MuleSoft. Analytics layer, we're looking at things like Click and Power BI sitting on top of Snowflake. At the ITSM layer, we're using ServiceNow. At the call center layer, we're using Five9, which is fully integrated IVR into ServiceNow, creating a unified system for our central services and support teams to work from. All of that comes together in what the service delivery mechanisms use. And then our field service technicians use Oracle Field Service Cloud, which is part of an integrated solution. I just named a number of different vendors. So the complexity comes with that common platform that I started with. It's a platform approach with integration. If we gave individual access to every single piece of the systems, they may individually be nice, but collectively it would be hard to digest. So we're really, really trying to focus on creating a common experience. That integration layer, again, gives us the opportunity, if I choose tomorrow to swap out a technology and plug something else in, the experience to the end user doesn't change.
That's outstanding, because one of the trends that we're covering is this movement from just modernization to true digital transformation, or digital threading the technology across. And I love the topic about the simplicity layer, and that was a really, really interesting topic that many organizations are pointing towards and trying to get to, because of, you've got multinational organizations that have either grown organically or inorganically, and all of a sudden the complexity of it snowballs, right? You've got, how many instances of ERP running across the globe, and how many instances of this running across the globe, and bringing it into one platform is I think something that many organizations are striving to achieve. So I love the talk track there. That was really
Traditional
interesting.
approaches would be to replace all those, and those are long-term projects, and they may happen anyway, but in the interim, you have to create sort of the ability to sort of aggregate all that data in the short term to provide value, while you still may be replacing them traditionally under the scene. So it's really a walk and chew gum scenario. You have to be able to do both.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. So closing out here, so the importance of the engineer and technician, it's very clear that Ricoh really puts a stamp on that as important. Can you just talk about that, your viewpoints on that aspect of your job, and in terms of plugging in, making sure you've got that close-knit relationship with the front line? What are your viewpoints there?
Yeah, I mean, I have a great appreciation. So like in my career, I explained where I came, corporate IT through managed service provider. over that period of time, you gain appreciation for the folks that really mean the most to our customers, the ones that they see every day, and you recognize that's really where the value is, and it's important. So you can never underestimate that. So there's an extreme appreciation that I have for what they do each and every day, and I recognize you lose that connectivity with your customers, you lose your customers. At the end of the day, nothing else you do matters. You could be the highest technology, make the best infrastructure investments, and present yourself as the most technically innovative company in the world. If you lose contact with your customers, you've lost the game. So that's what you have to recognize. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer. It's all about the folks that touch our customers each and every day. And if you lose contact, what's important to them, you lose contact, what's important to your customers. So that's really what's a driving force. It's what our company's been about. You know, we call it Empowered by You as a slogan. Empowered by You means empowered by the employees. The employees all have a voice. Our jobs as an EMT executive management team is to listen to the employees, listen to what they're saying. I can't solve every one of your problems tomorrow, right? But I will promise to listen to every one of your problems today. So that's really what we're trying to go forward and build that as part of our culture. We've adopted what's called a culture of excellence. That means if you see something that can be fixed, fix it. If you have an idea, raise it. If you think your voice needs to be heard, please raise your hand. And it's that culture of excellence, being committed to our customers, being committed to the company in the way that supports each other in the right way, that I think brings a spirit that we need to drive us forward. It's that spirit of innovation when you think about it at its very core. When you start stunting those kind of inputs and you start discounting what the field service technicians or the people on the front lines or on premise with our customers, those voices are the loudest along with our customers. So if you respect that, respect the culture of excellence, and you can actually drive new experiences to our customers that are really based on what matters most to the employees who take care of our customers.
Bob, this has been a tremendous resource for our listening audience. I wanted to thank you for being a board member and for today's segment, a really interesting discussion. And I'm sure by popular demand, we'll have to welcome you back for another one. Briefly, for our listening audience, before we leave, something personal about yourself. What's shaking this summer? Anything fun?
So, like I mentioned, I moved to the Philadelphia area from Long Island. I lived on Long Island my entire life. So I'm actually going home on vacation to my home. It sounds so strange. But while I love this area, and the Philadelphia area is wonderful, it's a lot of people. I know a lot of people where I went to school. I miss the beach. Quite frankly, I grew up on the water. So I'm going to look forward to go home for the summer and take some time off, see the family, and I've been doing that quite often. Awesome. But that's what I'm looking forward to. It's a lot of excitement going on, and looking forward to watch my Mets continue to win. They're in their winning ways. The only team ahead of them is the Yankees, which is sort of the bane of my existence. But I'm a big sports fan, and Mets are a big part of sort of where I grew up. They were born in 1962, the same year I was. So it's a kinship there that's with me forever.
There you go. New ownership and all signs signaling north with the Mets as well. So good stuff, Bob. Thank you so much for joining. To our listening audience, this playback will be available on whatever you subscribe to, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It's on 8 to 10 channels. You can find it there. Or you can also find it at the Service Council's website, servicecouncil.com. And Bob, thank you once again. Thanks for being a board member. Thanks for today's segment, a great resource for our members.
John, thank you very much. It was a great experience. You always make it easier. It's always a great dialogue. So I really enjoyed the time.
Appreciate it. Have a nice summer.
You too.